Have you ever wondered why some people get destroyed by suffering? And other people, when they suffer, they don't get destroyed? In fact, some people not only don't get destroyed by suffering, but they seem to become even stronger just by going through suffering. Have you ever thought about that? Well, I didn't think about it for a long time because I was brought up believing that suffering is something everybody can grow through. So I was just brought up thinking that. So I always thought it was true, that if you wanted to grow through it, you could. Then when I started working with people who suffer a lot, both as a psychotherapist, but also I've worked a lot with the poor and with the homeless, I started realizing, hey, wait a minute, I'm not so sure this is true. Everybody doesn't grow through suffering. Some people get destroyed by suffering. Despite their best efforts, some people simply get destroyed. So I started asking myself, what was the difference? I mean, what's the difference between the person who gets destroyed and the person who doesn't? Why is it that when some people get knocked down, they keep going? They get knocked down, they get up, and they go again. Other people, they get knocked down, and they just stay down. They never get up. So I thought to myself, well, I need to find the answer to this question. Mainly because I work with a lot of people who suffer, and I work with a lot of people who seem to be getting destroyed by it. So I thought, well, if I could find the answer to that question, I could teach it, and I could help the people that I work with. So I started trying to figure it out. So I thought a lot about it. I also did a lot of reading. I decided, well, all right, the thing to do is I'll try to read as much as I can about people who've had lots of suffering in their lives, tragedies and traumas, and the people who somehow make it. And I'll try to figure out what's the difference between people who make it and people who don't make it. The purpose of this program is for me to teach you what I've learned and all the readings that I've done, all the thinking that I've done, and all the people I've talked to. What we're going to focus on in this program is how to make it, how to keep yourself from being destroyed, even how to grow or to build when a life that you're living feels like it's not worth living. We're going to talk about 3 sets of skills or 3 sets of behaviors or 3 things to practice that seem to be what the people who grow all have in common. The skills I'm going to be talking about, you could call them reality acceptance skills. And they're 3. Radical acceptance, turning the mind, and willingness. We're going to start with the first one, radical acceptance. Can you think of any? Really serious problems, really serious pain, serious traumas, things that make you really unhappy that you can't change. Maybe you've had a child who's died. People who've had a child who's died never get over it. Maybe you have a permanent disability. What are your options? You can be miserable, or you can accept the reality that you've got it. Maybe you've had a really painful childhood. You know, a lot of people have to live with that. You just have to live with the fact that those happy childhoods that you see on TV aren't in your life, and there's nothing you can do about it. Maybe you didn't get a job that you really wanted. There's nothing you can do about it. These are just not the kinds of things you can start being happy about. So what are your options? You can either be miserable, or you can figure out a way to accept the reality of your own life. So what's radical accepting? What do I mean by the word radical? Radical means complete and total. It's when you accept something from the depths of your soul. When you accept it in your mind, in your heart, and even with your body. It's total and complete. When you've radically accepted something, you're not fighting it. It's when you stop fighting reality. That's what radical acceptance is. The problem is telling you what it is and telling you how to do it are 2 different things. Radical acceptance can't really be completely explained. Why not? Because it's something that's interior. It's something that goes on inside yourself. like. Often when you've accepted, you have this sense of letting go of the struggle. It's just like you've been struggling and now you're not. Sometimes if you've accepted, you just have this sense of being centered, like you feel centered inside yourself somehow. You may have a lot of sadness. Acceptance often goes with a lot of sadness, actually. But even though you've got sadness, there's a feeling like a burden is lifted. Usually if you've accepted, well, you feel ready to move on with your life. You sort of feel free, ready to move. So that's what it feels like. Let's keep going. Pain is pain. Suffering, agony are pain plus non-acceptance. So if you take pain, add non-acceptance, you end up with suffering. Radical acceptance transforms suffering into ordinary pain. There are 3 parts to radical acceptance. First part is accepting that reality is what it is. The second part is accepting that the event or situation causing you pain has a cause. The third part is accepting life can be worth living, even with painful events in it.